One of the most painful things a person can do is slowly lose themselves while trying to be chosen. It does not usually happen all at once. It happens in quiet moments. You hold back what you really feel, so you do not seem difficult. You become more understanding than honest. You start adjusting your words, your needs, your boundaries, and even your personality, hoping that if you become easier to love, someone will finally stay. And for a while it can feel like that is what love requires. But the truth is, the more you abandon yourself to be chosen, the more empty that choice begins to feel. A lot of people do not realize how much of their behavior in relationships is shaped by the fear of not being chosen. That fear can make people overgive, overthink, overexplain, and overcompensate. It can make them work very hard to become the safest, easiest, most agreeable version of themselves. Not because that version is true, but because they believe being fully themselves might push someone away. So instead of asking whether the connection feels healthy, they become focused on one question only. How do I make sure this person chooses me? When someone is deeply afraid of rejection, they often begin to shape themselves around what they think will be wanted. They become more careful, more pleasing, more emotionally convenient. They may hide their opinions, silence their discomfort, or act okay with things that do not feel okay at all. From the outside, it can look like flexibility or patience, but inside, it often feels like a constant pressure to perform worthiness, a pressure to earn love by becoming whatever feels least likely to be left behind. This is where self-loss begins, not always through dramatic sacrifice, but through repeated self-betrayal. You want to say this hurt me, but you stay quiet. You want to ask for clarity, but you pretend to be unbothered. You want to say no, but you say yes, because you are afraid honesty will make you less lovable. Over time, these small moments begin to add up. And one day, you realize you are no longer just trying to keep the connection. You are trying to survive inside a version of yourself that no longer feels real. Trying to be chosen can also make your emotional world revolve around another person's attention. If they reply warmly, you feel okay. If they become distant, you feel unsettled. If they seem unsure, you begin doubting yourself. Their energy starts controlling your peace. And when that happens, it becomes even easier to lose yourself. Because instead of listening to your own inner signals, you become focused on reading theirs. You stop asking, "What do I feel?" You start asking, "What do I need to do so they do not pull away?" That is why so many people become emotionally exhausted in relationships, where they are desperate to be chosen. They are not just loving, they are monitoring, adapting, anticipating, trying not to say the wrong thing, trying not to ask for too much, trying not to seem needy. It is a very painful way to live because it turns love into emotional tension. And instead of feeling safe in connection, you feel like you are constantly auditioning for it. Many people stay in this pattern because they confuse being chosen with being valued. But those are not always the same thing. Someone can choose you and still not treat you with care. Someone can keep you close and still leave you feeling unseen. Someone can stay and still make you shrink. This is why being chosen by itself is not enough. The deeper question is this: who are you becoming in order to keep that place in their life? Because if being chosen comes at the cost of your voice, your peace, or your self-respect, then the price is already too high. A lot of self-abandonment in relationships comes from old wounds. If someone grew up feeling like love had to be earned, they may carry that belief into adulthood without realizing it. They may believe that being loved depends on being useful, easy, forgiving, low maintenance, or endlessly understanding. So when a relationship starts feeling uncertain, they do not naturally move toward boundaries. They move toward performance. They try to become better, softer, quieter, more lovable, not because they are weak, but because part of them learned long ago that love must be secured through self-sacrifice. That is why present pain can feel bigger than it looks. A delayed reply, emotional distance, mixed signals, or inconsistency can stir up something much older. Suddenly, it is not just about this one person. It feels like the familiar fear of being overlooked, not enough, or left behind. And when that old fear gets activated, many people stop protecting themselves. They start chasing reassurance instead. They start trying harder to be chosen by someone who is already showing them that they are not offering emotional safety. One of the hardest truths to accept is that the need to be chosen can make people ignore what they actually feel. They know something is off. They feel anxious more than calm. They feel dismissed more than understood. They feel confused more than secure. But because the hope of being chosen feels so powerful, they keep minimizing the emotional cost. They tell themselves to be patient, to be less sensitive, to stop overthinking. But real emotional pain does not disappear just because you explain it away. Over time, trying too hard to be chosen can make you lose trust in yourself. You stop honoring your instincts. You start believing your discomfort matters. You start second-guessing everything. Was that really hurtful, or am I overreacting? Is this really unhealthy, or am I just scared? Should I say something or stay quiet? This inner confusion is part of what makes self-loss so painful. It is not only that someone else is unclear with you, it is that you begin becoming unclear with yourself. And sometimes, the deepest loneliness does not come from being alone. It comes from being in a connection where you are constantly betraying your own truth just to keep it alive. That kind of loneliness is very quiet. It can look like staying, it can look like loyalty, it can even look like love. But inside, it feels like disappearance. It feels like your real self is standing farther and farther away, watching you settle for less than what your heart actually needs. The painful part is that even when you finally start seeing the pattern, it can be hard to stop, because part of you still believes that if you just do things right, if you stay patient enough, if you prove your value clearly enough, the other person will finally choose you in the way you have been longing for. But love is not supposed to be won through self-erasure. Real care does not need you to become smaller in order to be kept. Healing often begins when you start asking better questions. Not, how do I make them choose me? But, why do I feel I must earn basic care? Not, what else can I do to keep this connection? But, what has this connection been asking me to abandon in myself? These questions can be uncomfortable, but they are powerful because they begin shifting your attention away from external approval and back toward your own emotional truth. Sometimes what you have been calling love is actually fear mixed with hope. Fear of being left, hope that this time you will finally be enough to stay. But when fear is leading, people often tolerate things that deeply hurt them. They stay in confusion. They keep accepting inconsistency. They tell themselves that longing means depth, but depth is not the same as health. Just because something feels intense does not mean it is good for your heart. Choosing yourself does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop disappearing. It means you stop treating your needs like obstacles. It means you stop shrinking your truth to fit inside someone else's comfort. It means you begin noticing where you say yes out of fear, where you silence yourself to avoid disconnection, and where you keep hoping for emotional safety from people who only offer uncertainty. That awareness is where self-return begins. At first, this can feel very uncomfortable. When you are used to earning closeness through self-abandonment, honesty can feel risky. Boundaries can feel selfish. Speaking up can feel like a threat to the relationship. But those feelings do not mean you are doing something wrong. They often mean you are unlearning a pattern that taught you to leave yourself whenever love felt uncertain. And unlearning that pattern is one of the most important forms of healing. The goal is not to become cold or distant. The goal is to stay connected to yourself while relating to others, to love without losing your center, to care without performing, to hope without abandoning your standards, to want closeness without making your worth depend on being picked. Because the strongest form of love is not the one where you are finally chosen after shrinking for someone. It is the one where you remain fully yourself and are loved from that place. It also helps to rebuild parts of yourself that trying to be chosen made smaller. Return to your friendships, return to your routines, return to your interests. Return to the version of you that existed before all your emotional energy got tied to one person's attention. The more you reconnect with your own life, the less power someone else's uncertainty has over your sense of worth. And that matters, because healing is not only about leaving painful patterns. It is also about remembering who you are outside them. There comes a point where you have to ask yourself something honest. Is being chosen by this person really worth losing myself? That question can change everything, because once you begin valuing your peace, your voice, and your emotional stability more deeply, being chosen stops feeling like the highest prize. You start wanting something better than that. You start wanting mutual care, clarity, respect, a connection where you do not have to abandon yourself to belong. So, if you have been losing yourself trying to be chosen, try not to shame yourself for it. There is usually pain beneath that pattern. There is usually fear beneath that pain. But the answer is not to become more pleasing. The answer is to become more honest, more grounded, more protective of your inner life. Because no relationship is worth the slow disappearance of who you are. And maybe that is the real turning point. The moment you stop asking who will choose me and start asking, how do I stop leaving myself behind? That is where something begins to heal. That is where your voice starts coming back. That is where love becomes less about being picked and more about being able to stay fully present inside your own life. If this spoke to something you have been carrying, subscribe to Everyday Psychology for more calm, honest insights into the emotional patterns so many people silently struggle with.